Hello, welcome back to another video on my thoughts on the current comic market. A lot have been discussed on my channel in the past 3 months on a lousy 2019, and a lot have been discussed by many people that post comments on those videos about what they think caused the downdraft and what it would take to reverse the market. And for most people, I think I saw one common thread: the return of the movies as far as phase 5. A lot of people mention that there's a lull in the big movies, and the market need a kickstart from the movies, whether it's the X-Men or the Fantastic Four franchise, the big franchise, to get the fever started again. Let me put my thoughts into this, okay? Or let me give you my thoughts on this, is that there is no dispute, okay? We cannot dispute the impact of the movies in the past 10 years on the market overall. Like it or hate it, you cannot, us, we cannot discount the impact of the movies on the overall market. Now, the question is how big of an impact, and let me give you my thoughts on this, is that there's no way to quantify how much of an impact, but I can tell you that there is what I consider a perfect storm, where a confluences of many different things that constitute to a booming decade in the market. Slightly less than a decade, but I think most people would consider 2008 to 2018 to be the booming market. There was some weakness at the start of 2008, 2009, 2010, but the fever caught fire already, okay? With the success of Iron Man 1, the market was slightly weak because of the real estate crash and the stock market crash of 2009, but the impact was not as severe, okay, compared to what we experienced in 2019. Because if you follow the market back in 2008, 2009, 2010, between Iron Man 1 and the first Avenger movies, a lot of things happened. Big jump in a lot of big keys, okay? So A, we get the movies. B, the age, the demographic of the market. A huge part of the market, especially on the high end. By high end, I mean the bigger books, the 4 figures, 5 figures and higher. A huge part of that market is more dependent on the demographic of the collectors. If you in your 20s and you just jump in a hobby in 2016, certainly you are likely not one of the candidates that bidding for the X-Men 1 or the Hulk 181 that cost you $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, whatever it is, okay? Likely the demographic that are fighting over those books, that drove the prices of those books for the past decade, are the 40 and the 50-year-old. The people that have the big nostalgia draw from the movies, okay? They may have been collected in the 80s and the 90s, maybe even in the 70s or the 60s. But those 4 decades have a lot of older collectors that are in their, what I consider, max power earning years, okay? Because a lot of people in their 20s don't make a lot of money. Most people gradually improve with career, with jobs, and everything else. And by the time you reach your 40s and your 50s, that's when you have assets. That's where you have savings. And for some people, like me and a few other people, that's where you have a lot of money, a lot of savings. Disposable income was at our height, okay? And I think that's, in general, regardless of your career that you're in, I think most people can look back and say, yeah, doesn't matter what you do now, I have more money in my 40s compared to my 20s. Yeah, I think most people raise your hand if you agree, because I only know my job and career, and I can't assume that everybody make a little bit more money in their 40s compared to their 20s. But I think we all hope that, right? Who would want to make the same? Is there anybody out there want to make the same money in their 50s compared to their 20s? Heck no, right? So the nostalgia effect draws in a lot of collectors in their 40s and 50s years old demographic that have money, that have disposable income, savings, assets, even things that they can borrow against, like home equity. Yes, I know people that use home equity to go out there and buy big books, but I don't agree with that. But the bottom line is, this demographic have the buying power, and that's where the perfect storm came in, because you have the movies that draw the fever, you have a bunch of middle-aged collector that have money, that fight for these things, that compete against each other to get the big books, drove up the price. Yeah, that's the confluence of things that happened in the past decade that fuel this market, okay? No doubt about it. The demographic of the market is critical. Yes, I use the term critical to the health of the big books, the big keys, the big boys book, because for years, for the past 10 years, I heard so many people talk about, oh my God, the market is going to crash because so many people is going to die off, and there are going to be so many books flooding the market, okay? I'm sure you have heard something like this before. If you've been in the hobby in the past 10 years, you have heard of discussion like that. Now, that hasn't panned out to be true. Why? Because the demographic was that there are a lot of 40, 50-year-old dudes, for the lack of a better way, because guess what? The ladies, they're not in this hobby buying the big books, okay? They have better places to put their money, like whatever, right? But it's not in comic books. But the dudes in that 40s and 50s, the peak earning year, are the one soaking up the inventory, as well as dealers. No doubt the big dealers that hoard multiple copies because they need to impress people at the conventions are part of that buying power, right? So yeah, the demographic has pushed the market up for the past decade. Now the question is, has that demographic used up all of its fuel? Because if it has, I'm not saying it has, okay? Let's not, I'm just put out the question out there. If it has used up all this fuel, then it's gonna be not a lot of cash on the sideline waiting to pour back into the market, to reverse the market. That's what I'm saying, is that I don't know how much cash there is on the sideline. Whenever there are big money being made in any market, whether it's stock market, real estate market, the comic market, whenever there are money, profits in any market, you will have capital flow from people that have never been in this market before. Okay, so everything that I outlined was a perfect storm that fueled this market in the past decade. now that we have a hiccup, a downturn. It's in with many market. Whenever there's a downturn, we can all speculate on what it would take for the downturn to reverse, okay? And one of the biggest thing is the availability of cash out there, okay? In a stock market, whenever there is a downturn, you will hear a lot of professionals on TV talking about how much cash is on the sideline waiting to buy. Yeah, buy on the dip, okay? That's a common term. And a lot of times, that's what happened. That's what usually buy on dips happen. And a lot of times, that is what stop a downslide in the stock market and prevent to go way down. But there are situations where the money on the sideline decide to wait a little bit longer, wait for the market to come down even more. So it's all on the psychology of the people that have the cash to buy, right? Same thing with the comic book market. What would take the comic book market to reverse will be the available cash on the sideline. I don't know, okay? I'm no genius to tell you I know how much or who is sitting out there with their cash waiting to buy. Sure, you have heard a few people on a few channels talking about, you know, they are building up the war chest to buy something. So there are people building up cash reserve to jump in, but until the psychology of those people change, it will be hard for the market to reverse the course, because sure, there are people that have no problem buying, okay? In this market, the market is still going on, okay? Even at this very moment, there are thousands of books getting ready to be auctioned off everywhere. So obviously there are buyers. The question is how many buyers are out there, because the rule of economics still stand. If there are more sellers than buyers, then the price will fall, because there's just not enough buying power out there to soak up the inventory, to prop up the price, right? So for me, do I think the launching or announcing of a Fantastic Four movie or the X-Men franchise, is that gonna be the catalyst that reverse the trend? Only time will tell. I don't know, okay? Other people have predicted that, and they can predict that. I will just let the data speak for themselves, okay? I don't like to make big sweeping prediction. Am I gonna complain if the market reverses so that I can sell my stuff at a higher price? No. So yeah, it's no Debbie Downer here. I'm just speaking facts. And so for me, I don't know how much money is on the sideline waiting to pour into this hobby. No doubt there is a disconnect with the economy, the stock market, and the collectible, okay? So, and if you pay attention to the various collectible market, whether it's Magic the Gathering or comic books, the weakness is beyond just comic books, okay? So there is something going on with the collectible segment altogether. Perhaps big money are pouring into the stock market. That's why we are at all-time high, okay? Capital flow, where capital think it get the best return. That's one of my oldest saying as far as the stock market, okay? That's where the capital like to go. It's like magnet. Returns, potential returns, attract money like a magnet. Anyhow, that's it for my rambling. Thanks for watching. You can agree or disagree. Bye.